you might have heard, are putting on a little play at this little outdoor area. It's King Lear at the Carrie Furnace, which is, well, first of all, let's talk about you guys a little bit in quantum and what quantum does. So, Stuart, let's start with you. Tell our wonderful viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've been managing director at Quantum for about 2 years. That means that I'm like the gardener who lets all the great art happen, right? So I do the marketing, the fundraising, the finance, so that we work with these amazing artists. So they could focus on making things like the King Lear at the Carrie Furnace. I started as an actor, like that's my background. And when I was doing off shows in New York,
Like still off, they were in Connecticut.
yeah,
Like
Brooklyn, yeah. But I did like Two Gentlemen of Lebowski, which is a Shakespearean, take on the Big Lebowski. So that feels very like of the moment. But no, so I was doing that, but I got this great day job at Broadway.com, turned me on to like all this other stuff that I found I really enjoy. So I did some of that there, Broadway.com. I worked at Ford's Theater Society in DC, and then I came to grad school in Pittsburgh at CMU, and I learned, how much I love this city. I really wanted to get back, and I did, for this job, which I've been in for about 2 years, and I love it. It's great.
well, I'm glad that you love Pittsburgh. So, now tell me, or tell the people watching, hello, a little bit, because Quantum's a little different. I mean, it's not your theater where you get your ticket and you go in and your usher seats you. I mean, how do you guys interpret theater?
Yeah, that's what's so one of the things that's so exciting about it, right? It's really eclectic for one thing, so you don't know what kind of show you're going to see. We do Shakespeare, we do world premiere plays, we do plays and music, we've done operas before, so it's a huge range, but it takes place all over the city. We think of the city as our stage, right? So we've been in abandoned swimming pools. We've been in groves of trees. We are at the Carrie Blast Furnaces right now. We've been in all sorts of neighborhoods. We went outside the city up to Sewickley this year. Really, it's a great way to explore your city, to see some, really hidden gems. But at the heart is, the really beautiful vision of the artist, and particularly our founder and artistic director, Carla Boos, who created the company 28 years ago and has brought all of us on this ride with her.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And Scot Fleming, head minion here at Boom. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Boom is a integrated creative services agency, which is basically a fancy way for saying ad agency or marketing agency. We were founded in 2008, so we're celebrating our 10th year for yet another year and a half. I think we're allowed to.
Absolutely, stretch it out. That's what I do with every birthday I have.
Exactly. And we're extremely happy and proud of the work that we're doing with Quantum Theater, and especially for King Lear right now, that we're going to talk about, because it's been a smash success.
Yes, it has. And I've heard rumors that it's actually sold out.
Yeah.
Which, I'll front load with that. So if you're watching this, you're like, oh my God, at the end of this, you're going to be like, I have to go see this show if you don't already have tickets. And you can, but there's a caveat. You've got to be there, right? Stuart, how do these last minute?
Exactly. So it's so sold out. We're finding that like every night, people, for one reason or another, don't show. So we have a rush going on now. If you show up at 7 o'clock, we have a list. And then we take people from that list around 7:25. In the order they're listed, it's $40 cash. And we got like 7 people in last night. So it's really working. And folks who want to see the show are getting in. But, it is, it's sold out every performance. We close on June 2nd. So it's just.
And that's not really a problem for you. I mean, that's a good problem to have. That's great. That means it's been incredibly well received. So let's pivot to that. So King Lear, obviously Shakespearean play. You, or Quantum, decided, you know what? We should go to a blast furnace to put this on. How did that even come up as an option? Like, talk me through that whole process and how Quantum got there.
Yeah, I mean, it started like so many things at Quantum in the mind of Carla Boos. She was working, there was the 125th anniversary of the Battle of Homestead. And so she was doing some work with the Battle of Homestead Foundation. And she's talking to these folks, and, they're kind of amongst like this industry. And, she was thinking about, coming back to a Shakespeare. And, you're looking across the water, and like there's the Carrie Blast Furnaces, and somebody's like, you should do a show there. So she got to talking, and I remember, a year ago, we got it to the point where we're like walking around the site, with these folks from Rivers of Steel, who are great to work with, but we're pitching them like we do so many times on, so we're just going to come in here for 8 weeks and like have the run of the place, and we're going to rehearse with our actors, and we're going to build a ton of stuff. And they're doing weddings now. They're doing all this stuff. It's crazy. And they have their arms crossed. They're like, I can't imagine like how this is going to happen. But, like, she makes it happen. And so like she sold them on the site. They've been really welcoming. We figured out, how we could be in there, and we rehearsed offsite somewhat. But, it started with that like artistic vision, like that dream of this huge like mythic, play, a mythic Britannia mixed with, like mythic Pittsburgh. There's like it's a really deep connection. Then that intersection that we found is incredibly powerful. But is that idea, and then just the relentlessness to like push through any opposition to make it happen, which is something I'd find just like so admirable, and that makes like our work possible.
So in your 2 years, would you classify this as one of the more challenging locations that you've had to secure?
Yes.
Yeah.
The scale alone, right? It's so big. We borrowed this golf cart, actually to like help for a couple just because we have to traverse stuff all over the site, and to help audience members, who there is a walk of, almost a quarter mile in between the first act and the second act, and not everyone's game for that. And it's so effective in the show, but we had to crack problems like that. There's no running water that we have access to. So we want to have, there's no refrigeration, like easy power. There's just enough power to the lights. Like we've blown fuses, multiple times doing this thing. So like I can't be, putting in a fridge for the concessions and stuff. So there's all sorts of like little, but that's what's exciting about it.
That's what coolers are for. So
yeah. Exactly. We found out you can buy ice and put them in there.
Way.
Yeah, it works. No, so we're swinging at all that stuff, but at the heart is like the audience experience, and like what's going to make it meaningful for them. And that's like, as we're doing this walk, that's why the golf cart came along. We're thinking about how we light that path, like what does that look like? And it's a really beautiful moment now where it happens right at twilight. So like you are in daylight at the beginning of this show, and you kind of sink into like this theatrical world of the play as it goes on, and like all those elements of experience. I guess like there are challenges that come with that, but it's what makes us different than like, the kind of like traditional theatrical temples, right? Is you can leverage those circumstances to create something like a one-of-a-kind experience.
Yeah, you'll never get that inside an actual theater. Like that's something you can only do where you are right now.
Right. I mean, you don't even notice it becoming, but then you're plunged into this darkness, and you do this walk, and like the furnaces, we have a little bit of lighting on them so you can like see them, and you have a little flashlight, but it's so beautiful. Just they're silhouettes, against like the night sky, and you're walking down these like luminaria lit path to this place called the Iron Garden for the second act, which is just like, it feels like Stonehenge or something. It's like big rocks and like a tree in the middle, and it's like so intimate, from like the grandeur of the furnaces to that. It's just, you can scene change all you want, and you can have huge fly space and bring set in and out, right? But like, you can't do that unless you're at a blast furnace. Really.
Yeah. Well, and let's, do you have some of the visuals, Mike, that we could pull up? Oh, and I do want to remind people, if you have any questions for Scott or Stewart or me or Mike, whatever, you feel free to drop them in the comments on Facebook, because I want to move it over to Scott for a minute. So you got basic, what was the ask when they came to? They're like, we're going to do this thing, and we need you to art it for us. Like how did you
just like that?
Was that exactly what they said? It's like I was there.
Well, so just like Stewart said, Carla Booz is certainly the driving force behind Quantum Theater, and boom, we have our creative director Night Handley. And even though we all talk about collab, and it's always a team effort, and we have Tara Taylor and Mark Spader and Renee Mrazowicz, we have a small core team. But this is really, Nine's baby, and just like it's Carla's baby, and so we sit and we talk about all this. And the reason we're here talking today about something that's maybe seems like more typically just a marketing company's client is because we take on projects at what I would call a partner level. We immerse, we get on board, and we only take things that we really get passionate about and really love. And it's very clear from working with Stewart and Shannon and Carla and everybody on their staff that they're super passionate. And, they've got 6 people doing the job of 400, the way we have 4 people doing the job of maybe, 20 or 30. So A lot of this I'm going to give shouts out to Nide Hanley, who is the driving force behind a lot of the creative that you're going to see on our end of it.
And I do. So Scott sent me the art. It's artwork. It's art. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted both of you guys to sit down together, because that was my first exposure to King Lear was the artwork that you sent me, and it was. I've seen a lot of marketing materials in my life, and it blew me away. I mean, it was just. I was inspired. I mean, I'd love to hear how Nide got to that, how you guys, I mean, it was beyond anything I think that most people would do for a typical marketing campaign in terms of artistry.
I think an interesting thing about Lear specifically, so about the ask, last summer we met with Stewart and Carla and Shannon at Quantum Theater about what the season looked like, just like we're doing now for next season. And we had, we went in with the idea of a branded voice that ties in the feeling of Quantum Theater for the whole year and for the shows. As the year progressed, and we all thought we knew King Lear in our heads, but as the year progressed, we needed to be able a couple times to pivot when opportunities presented themselves or something kind of derailed us from our plans or became more apparent that we needed to move to a different plan. And when we walked around, the very first time we all walked around Carrie Blast Furnaces, we pivoted. And so our original artwork, which is out there, got augmented and accompanied by this new piece. And so I'm going to give also shouts out to Heather Mull, who to the photograph, and then also Rivers of Steel gave us a photograph as well that they had taken, and Mark Nobile gave us some great video. And we were able to use the textures of Carrie Blast Furnaces and do this amalgam of our original poster art that Nide had created with all these textures and the steel and the feel. And that's what drove us into the final leg of the marketing campaign for Lear, I think.
Well, obviously it was highly successul because they're sold out. So,
I wish we could take complete credit for that. But
well, it's been reviewed widely. Obviously, our own Amanda Reed. I knew she loved it before I even read the piece she filed because she was tweeting from Carrie Furnace about like how out of her mind amazing it was. So, I mean, is this one of your more popular pieces just in terms of maybe beyond the theater crowd and the theater goers? I mean, just I believe Scott told me you had some maybe national media there over the weekend. The AP was there.
Yeah.
How is this, in that regard?
Yeah, I think we've had two projects that kind of bookended the season that I think pierced through the veil there and helped us reach a bit broader. We opened our season with this immersive work Chatterton, which took place in 3 centuries. It was in Trinity Cathedral downtown. People were walking, all over there following different stories. There was a full dinner, and it just was, I think it was a really good example of like, whoa, like, this is something different than the kind of usual fare. And then King Lear is like, you think, okay, like it's an existing text. I'm going to sit there and receive a play, but it shows, how like the fulfillment of that idea of how sight can intersect with it. And yeah, people that I think it does help reach broader because there's a lot of people that are interested in the Carrie Furnaces, the Carrie Blast Furnaces. As I'm talking to people like, oh, I've always wanted to go there. What's that place? So it provides like a really good excuse to come. There's more ways in, I guess, is what it's about. You can be into the Carrie Furnaces. We're doing tours. If you want to get a tour, on the weekend, like you can do that before the show. If you're into Shakespeare, you can do that. And so there's a lot of on-roads onto it. And then the intersection is just so powerful altogether. I think, if you're kind of interested in any of them, you like synthesize those and you're like, oh, like I have to see that. Yeah.
Well, how do you, and this is maybe taking a little step backwards a little bit, how do you determine, and we'll talk about the new season here shortly.
Yeah.
How do you pick like which, old play, new play, Shakespeare, unknown? I mean, how do you as Quantum Theater sort of come together and say these are going to be the next couple that we're going to do?
It's so focused on Carla and what she wants to bring to the city. It started, she's traveled all over the world. She has a really deep engagement with international artists. So 28 years ago at the beginning of her career, she's bringing a lot of that global art to Pittsburgh. And now she's at a place in her career where she wants to, reflect it out to the world and say, hey, Pittsburgh has something to offer. That's like with our Chatterton and the Pittsburgh International Festival of First. That's what that was all about was, us with these like companies from Israel, from places, all over. There was so many different, and we were right there side by side. So it's about what excites her, and what's going to surprise the Pittsburgh audience or show them, something new. King Lear is an old play, right? But this is a new edit of it from Jim Kincaid and Julian Markel's, who, Lear would be 3.5 hours. There's a Glenda Jackson version in New York right now. 3.5 hours straight through, 2 intermissions. Ours is 2.5 with 1 intermission, and it's really cut down to that really like the heart of the story, the kind of physical core. So it's very accessible for that reason, but it also really like shows just how Shakespeare knew people. So she's trying to shine new light on old works, I guess, but also really surprise the city of Pittsburgh and say, come on this ride with me. You're going to see some of the most amazing places in your city, and you don't know what you're going to get with our season, but it's going to be worth seeing. Like she's going to take you on a really interesting ride. And so, that's kind of our trip.
Okay. So getting back to something I wanted to ask you, excuse me, about putting it on at Carrie Furnace. We were talking before we went on about the weather, because I have tickets to the Pirate game today. And I'm like, oh, it might rain. What if the game gets rained out? And Stewart's like, yeah, what if my giant play gets rained out? Because you guys have a show today. So no rain for you as well. But so how do you deal? I mean, it's the elements. It's outside. Like there are, aside from, not enough electricity, there's things to consider. Weather being a huge one.
Well, my entire staff and I have become amateur weather people for one thing. Like I have all the apps on my phone. I'm watching the radar. I know that by like 3 or 4, I know like what's probably going to happen that evening. But yeah, I mean, the show is built to withstand kind of a light drizzle, and we've done that a couple times. I think one of the reviews called it an atmospheric mist in the second act.
That's so Shakespearean. I love it.
Right? And, there's a storm in the show. So I mean, I am so grateful to our audience, because they're the folk who have been on this ride with us, or the folk who are there. They want to see the show too. So there's some durability in there, and everyone's kind of good sports about that. But yeah, it's a big metal blast furnace, and if there's thunder and lightning, like we got to be really mindful of that. So we're watching it. We had a show get rained out midway through Act 1 on Friday, and we were able to kind of squeeze folks in on other nights, and we're watching it. If it's not safe or it's going to be miserable, we're going to cancel. And we've talked to the actors who have ability to have a makeup, like a rain date.
Yeah.
So we'll have
a rain makeup, just like in sports.
Exactly, right, exactly, just like that. But although it was miserable in April, when we're rehearsing, and the actors and team were just like so hardy in that, I need something wood to knock on over here. But and tonight is looking pretty dicey. But we're
well. And what is the toll on the actors and the staff like? Right? I mean, because they're out in the elements too, and actors specifically aren't really used to performing outside like this typically. So, are there considerations or things that they have to do?
Yeah, our team is really good about that. The stage management team, making sure that's, because it's like they are the design, like you see in those costumes, right? It like melds kind of that ancient and like the contemporary Pittsburgh. But sometimes what that means is there's like several sweaters to accomplish that look, which is not very comfortable this time of year. So the stage management, like I got a message on Sunday, they're like, we need ice packs. Like here they are. So there's like we got little ice packs so they could tuck in, on these like really warm nights. We're just saying, what layers like can you get rid of, on these warm. But yeah, it's definitely a toll on them, and it's we talked to them about it, pretty straightforwardly. Like it's everyone feels really aligned, I guess, by the opportunity and the kind of one of a kind chance to do it. But we want to try and make that as humane as possible. Like plenty of water. There are offstage areas where they can duck out and like cool down a little bit.
Like a misting system or something.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But it's it's that risk reward thing. It's the trade-off to do it, something like that.
There was a moment we saw it one of the first nights, the Pay What You Can performance night, and that's when we were there and we were gathering some more images. And there was a moment where I just had the minimal amount that I know about Shakespeare, and this isn't something that maybe Quantum Theater would say or the Carla or Nine would ever say, but I feel like the Quantum Theater and any given show is theater for people that may think that they don't like theater. If you think you don't like theater, go to one of these and then tell me, then let's have a talk, because this is so unique and it just feels different. There was this moment in the second act where I was sitting at the top, very top of the round, and I felt two things. I felt one, the minimal I know about Shakespeare is this is a little bit closer to how it was done when they used to have to travel from town to town in Britain, and the challenges that are not there when you have a real backstage and you have a real dressing room, and you have a real. And I got to see from my vantage point when I wasn't watching the action, the actors doing more work behind me and below me in the dark quietly as they could, and the production team and the tech crews doing more work basically in the round than you'd ever see at a regular theater. It was just amazing and intimate. And you could like just do this and watch over your shoulder if you want to see some people getting ready. And they were on, I mean, it was just, everybody was hitting their marks, and it was just wonderful tech and wonderful craft to watch.
Yeah, it really is like a feat. Like I think about some of the specific things they pull on, you know, like it's all outdoors, right? So to your point about the weather, we have these huge like plastic sheets that cover all the seating banks. And there's like all this choreography about like how those come down at intermission in case we get like a drizzle, how they come up. The actors, you know, the costume designer created this amazing like map of England. It's this huge thing, and it's Lear's cape as he comes in. It's like his robe. So like they process and they're singing this like which side are you on, you know, like there's all this interspersing of labor, you know, history like in with the production, which is really interesting. So they're singing that, and he processes in with this huge map of England, and it's like really symbolic, you know, because he divides the kingdom at the beginning, right? But it's, you know, that's a lot of work, and they're working Foley and stuff. There's a Foley element, especially in the second act, like gongs and thunder sheets. So yeah, the actors do so much, like on stage and off, you know, to make this happen, and the production crew too. They're just
I don't think people that haven't worked in theater truly appreciate the monumentous effort that goes into a seamless audience experience. Like, this was amazing. Thank you. We all worked 27 hours today to bring this to you. And it sounds like it's double time when you're doing it at, I don't know, a blast furnace. So
it's magnificent, and when they're doing it right, of course, right, it's invisible.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Or you have to do like what
unless Scott's like creepily trying to stare at
you. No, it was. I guarantee it was invisible to everybody else there, because I'm just a tech geek, and I was watching the craft, and I was in a spot where I had to stand because it sold out, and so I got an interesting vantage point. You can't go and just watch what I watch. Don't plan on the behind the scenes version of the show.
You had a unique viewpoint that not your average audience member would have. So bummer, King Lear is sold out. But as Stewart mentioned, there are rush tickets, you call them?
Yes.
So if there is a show that you're trying to get into, advice would be go to Carrie Furnace, have your $40 cash on you, and hope that somebody's car breaks down on the way there. Right? I mean, we're not hoping for tragedy. We don't want anything bad or awful, like just a minimum, like an inconvenience that prevents them from showing up so that you may go. Is that fair? Okay. So let's talk a little bit. I heard you had a little party, a little soiree the other night, and launched next season.
Yeah. We just announced what's coming up for the next year. So, and it was
right now. So why don't you tell us, Stewart, what is coming up next season?
Yeah, so we're going, no downtime. We're going right into our next play at August. It's also going to be outdoors, and we had our little party. People didn't know at the time, but at the Frick Lawn Bowling Greens, which I didn't know lawn bowling was a thing, but they have these beautiful greens there, and now I'm going to know all about lawn bowling, part of like one of the joys of the work.
You become an expert every time you do a show and something new, don't you?
I never know what I'm going to learn about, but it is great. So we're at the Lawn Bowling Greens there across from like the Frick Museum, and we're doing this play called Looking for Violetta, which is about this Chilean folk singer, Violetta Parra, who, you know, I didn't know, and I think probably, I don't know if anybody in this room knows, but she is so important to, to the history of Chile, the rise of Allende, and like she took the music of the people and used it as like this tool for activism. This all happened under these really iconic tents that they call the piñas. So we're going to have a big tent in Frick Park. We're going to be there, pretty much the whole month of August, and it's a play with music, some great performers, and we hope to really evoke that setting, that feel as we tell her story. So it's a completely new work. We have collaborators, in Chile, Carla's, deeply involved in creating this piece. But we're really excited about that one, as it's another big outdoor experience piece, but it's something of completely. We've assembled this team. It's all of our devising and our collaboration, multinational. That's really exciting. Then our next one is going to be in November. It's called Shakespeare's Will. So a little through line with the Shakespeare. It's about Anne Hathaway, who was Shakespeare's wife, and really famously, Shakespeare had this house in Stratford upon Avon that he never lived in, but she was there and their children were there. But when Shakespeare died, she got the second best bed in the will. and did not get the
Wow.
house. The house went to his sister, who was like this horrible person. And
Apparently.
yeah, rough, right?
She probably thought she was doing her a favor. I'm going to give you the second best bet. Be grateful. Like,
But so this play like digs into this, and it has like a lot to do with like issues of women and feminism, and it's like a really like strong performance piece. We think there's gonna be some music in that one too. We're kind of in like a musical place right now.
Okay.
But that's like kind of it's gonna have a more intimate feel. It's a different side of what we can do. And then about a year from now, we're doing this play called Chimerica, which we think is going to have a really cool venue, but I can't spill the beans on it yet. But it's one of these.
but when you do, you'll call me first,
I
right?
will, yeah,
It'll be
right.
Pittsburgh Current exclusive. Okay.
But it's this Olivier Award-winning play, which is a big like theater award in England, and from 2014, and it deals with Chinese and American relations. 13 actors, huge cast, but it looks that iconic tank man photo from Tiananmen Square. The man with the bags in front of the tanks, and it's an imagined fictionalization. But the journalist who captures that photo, 20 years later, there's this notice in like the Chinese paper, and they like a hint that this person might still be alive in New York City. So there's like a mystery element where they're trying to track him down. At the same time, some of his contacts in Beijing are like spilling the lid on some stuff that's going over there, and of course it's kind of a dangerous thing to do. So it's like freedom of the press is like very much in play, and the very important role that the press has. It's interesting looking at that kind of, it was written in 2014, kind of set around like 2012 in Obama's second election.
Little
So-
did they know.
Yeah, right. But I think it's gonna be
Still a shit show.
I think it's gonna be really interesting, to reflect that, now. And then if the venue that we hope pans out, it'll like all crystallize in like this beautiful way. But we are Susan Sue, who designed the costumes for King Lear. All that beautiful work that you saw in those photos. She's what we call a scenographer for that show. So she's
Okay.
doing the scenic and the costume design. She was in Beijing at the time of Tiananmen Square.
Wow.
So I think like that, our artists always bring incredible work to the table, but being able to position her as an artist on that one is something we're really excited to.
yeah,
So,
that's a whole other layer. That's awesome.
yeah. So 3 projects next year. That's the way we're going. Is fewer kind of larger, really exciting projects. It takes time to cook up something like a Lear at the Carrie Furnaces or a Chimerica, but it's it makes them really like worthwhile experiences. So we're excited to embark on that.
Because we were kind of joking before. It's like, wow, like King Lear like really set this bar. Like, are you nervous? Like, oh, this is great. Oh shit, what did I do? Like, how do I top this? And it seems like you guys have already answered that challenge, because this next season sounds amazing. And I'm assuming you and your team are already furiously figuring out how you're gonna art this.
Yeah, well,
Is that
yeah,
the- is
how-
that the
that's-
technical
Yeah,
term?
technically it is. It's how we're gonna art this. How we're gonna lens it.
Yeah, lens it. Ooh.
Yeah, so we just found out like everybody else found out about it. And it's always, so far it's been twice now, but it's been like unwrapping a gift. It's been like a birthday party when, they roll out these things, all of which are wonderful opportunities and all of which just send our gears spinning. And, like the process was last year, we come in with multiple ideas that, and we're going to have to probably be ready to pivot again as the year moves forward. But we're looking forward incredibly to what we're, the subject matter is just rich with opportunity for us. So we're incredibly excited about it too.
Well, I can't wait to see what you do with it. And I feel like I have to expect. So Scott and I know each other. I hear that NPR journalists do this all the time, and I'm obviously on the same plane as NPR journalists.
Absolutely.
So I used to work with Scott and Nat Handley and Tara Taylor in 2007, back in the day, and could not find 3 finer people. So, you probably could if you looked hard. But no, I love you guys.
It
You guys
was
are
the
awesome.
era of the super team.
We were the super team. We should have got T-shirts back then.
Like
but-
when the American basketball team went to the Olympics, it was just like that.
Yeah, like the Fab Five in basketball. Or is it 4? I can't remember
don't
sports.
remember. That's my only sports reference I'm even going to attempt.
Magic Johnson. That's all I know. All right, well, guys, thank you both so much for coming in. Thank you, Stewart. Thank you, Scott. The skies are looking very ominous right now. So me and Stewart are going to go sacrifice something to the weather gods.
These are Shakespearean guys.
Those are very Shakespearean guys. You've pissed off the bard, and now he's going to storm on you. But get out to Carrie Furnace. Give it a shot. I really should check it out. I know that in my time in paperdom, I've rarely seen a show so wildly well reviewed across the board. So congratulations again. Scott, love what you guys did. Tune in tonight for Kid Mental, 7 p.m. live in our Beachview studio. Pick up our summer guide. Follow us on all the socials, and follow them on all the socials too. Right? You want followers on socials,
Definitely.
right?
For current Pittsburgh Current.
At PGH Current everywhere. Quantum Theater, Boom.
Boom PGH.
Boom PGH. There you go.
That's all was available.
You sat too long and somebody took your
I sat
domain.
too long.
Thank you guys again. Thank you
you.
guys. And Mike, thank you. Take it away. Are you going to play the song out? Bye.
A better alternative, giving Pittsburgh a better alternative, giving Pittsburgh a better alternative.